Okay, you should now have your particle effect finalized, and now we're ready to add a script that activates this when the car hits the finish line. But first, let's go back to our car script, and we need to add one more method or function to this. So down here after the penalty one, I'm going to create another public function. So public void, and I'm going to call this one game over. And all this is going to do is just set our game over variable up here, our boolean, to true. Now pay attention to this spelling. This one I had a lowercase g and a capital O, so I had to use a different spelling on this one, so I did a capital G on this one as well. I can't have the same spelling, can't have a function and a variable the same name. So this one, all it's going to do is just set game over equal to true. Okay, so save that, and then let's go back to Unity, let that reload, and then we're going to create a new script for the finish line. So I'm going to right click down here in the assets again, go to create, and go to C# script. I'm going to call this finish line. And then once you've created it, go ahead and double click on it to open it. Okay, in the finish line script, we really don't need any of these methods. What we do need to do is create a couple of serialized fields, because we're going to need to connect this to the car script to be able to call the game over. And then we're also going to need to connect it to the particle system. So serialized field car, and I'll just call this C, and I'll call the particle system PS. Okay, so we need one variable to hold the location of the car script, one to hold the location of the particle system. Then we need to create a method, and this is going to be another one where if we collide with the finish line, so this is going to be another on collision enter. And actually, now that I think about this, some of you may have done the finish line. If I go back here and look at it, some of you may have done like a wall here. What I want to do, instead of colliding with it, like mine, if I hit this, it is going to collide. My car is going to go flying up in the air probably or something. It depends on how you design this, how high you have it off the ground. Colliding is not necessarily going to be a good thing. So let's click on that finish line and go look at our box collider. And instead of leaving it as a normal collider, we're going to set this as a trigger. So this is going to behave a little bit different than a normal collision. And since I'm doing this as a trigger, instead of doing on collision enter, we're now going to do on trigger enter. So let's go back to our script now and write a private void on trigger enter. And then it's going to be the same as our on collision enter as far as we need the collider information. What did it collide with? We're going to store that as other. And then we could do the whole if other tag name is car, all this stuff. But right now, the way we have our game set up, there's nothing else that's going to be colliding with it. So I can just simply say, let's see, so it'd be C dot, and then the function name was game over. Okay, so I named my car script C, so C.gameover, calling the game over function. And then my particle system I named P, so all I have to do is just say ps.play. Okay, so let's save this and go back now to Unity. And it looks like I have an error. Yep, when I hit tab to let Visual Studio Code auto finish this for me, it put in an additional void for me, even though I'd already typed it in. Let's save that and go back and see if we got any errors. There we go, no errors. Now I could drive through my whole course and try to test this, and you could go ahead and do that, or we could also go back and find our car, and we could move it way up there. And then before we test it, we need to make sure that we add the finish line script to the finish line. So I need to grab my finish line script. I can either drag to the finish line here or drag it to the cube up here. Either way works. And then after we've attached the script, I need to click on the finish line, and I need to let the script know where is my car and where is my particle system. So the car script is obviously on the car, and my particle system is my particle system, so drag both of those over. And now we should be ready to test this and see if our script works. Okay, and it does, but notice that I can keep driving past the finish line and fall, which isn't great. So what we can do to fix that, go back to the car, and in our update function, the very first code that we created, these 4 lines, I can wrap those in an if statement that says if not game over, then I want to be able to move and drive and all that stuff. So I'm going to wrap all those inside an if statement, not game over. And now when I run this, let me go back, let it reload. Okay, as soon as I hit that finish line, particle system should happen. There we go. And I can press the arrows and nothing happens, so I'm no longer able to drive. So we now have our particle system finish line working. So next we want to do a little bit with the scene itself. I'm going to turn it into a dark mode, set up some glowing objects, and then finally we'll add in the ability to listen for the R key to restart the game when the game is over.